Good morning, everybody. My name is David Hyun, CCIM. I got my CCIM pin on April 11th, 2018, about 7 years ago. I want to welcome everybody here to the first quarterly breakfast meeting by the CCIM Greater LA chapter of Los Angeles. But we're here for a special purpose. The purpose of today's meeting, number one, is to help you make more money in shopping centers investments as real estate brokers in 2025. Number two, our efforts as a chapter is planning events to make a significant difference in our industry on a regional basis. So this is the first of 4 events. The second event will cover industrial buildings. The third event will cover office buildings and shopping centers by other CCIMs that are experts. And the final event will be in small income residential properties so that you as agents can buy them for your own portfolio or pass them on to your clients so they can build a retirement portfolio for their brothers, sisters, and uncles. Now, this event of the CCIM Greater LA chapter was made possible by our leadership. And I want to introduce our leaders. Number one, our president, the gentleman right over here, Jeff Gould from the San Fernando Valley, is our president for 2025. Before him, our prior past president is David Chen, the gentleman to his right. He's a graduate of USC Marshall School of Business and the MRED program. And he's a gentleman who knows his material and he knows his market. He's here to help, as our speaker, help you make more money and plan for a successful year. The next thing that we want to do is inspire you that the time you leave this meeting, you'll be inspired to say, I am ready for 2025. I am ready for more listings. I'm ready to help my clients make proper investments in shopping centers. And after you leave, you're going to focus on production. So we got the purpose, we got the planning, we got the production down. This gentleman over here, Caleb Morrison, who recently got his pin, he understands the meaning of production. He knows how to get listings. And finally, when you put the planning, the purpose, the planning, and the production together, what do you have? The biggest and final P, profit. You're going to learn how to make lots of money and produce profit for yourself, your family, your company, and for your community. So with that, I am now going to turn the meeting back to our president, Jeff Gould, so that you can have a rip-roaring event. Thank you again.
David Hyun, everyone. David is like no one else. David has an amazing amount of energy and passion for CCIM, so very grateful to have you. I want to give it up for David also for allowing us to host at this wonderful event, for hosting us at this wonderful event space. So thank you, David, for all your leadership. We really appreciate your passion for CCIM and membership. So I know we have an intimate group today. We had a lot more registrants and some that didn't show up, but it's all good. You guys are here. We really appreciate you being here today. Jeff Gould, CCIM Greater LA President for 2025. Grateful to have you all here. But I also want to, our region is very wide. We have folks from the Santa Barbara region. We have folks that are all the way out in the Central Valley. So we represent and encompass a very wide region here at CCIM Greater LA, and it doesn't just include brokers. I want to create this idea that the CCIM is just brokers. That's not true. We have owners that are members of our chapter. We have asset managers. We have valuation experts like Charles Wilson. We have fiduciaries and real estate asset managers like myself. So there's a misnomer that CCIM is just brokers. That's not the case. And the education is not just geared towards the brokerage industry. It's geared towards the financial analysis in real estate. And so understanding the ownership's perspective, understanding how to talk and speak the language of financial analysis in real estate is really important here. And so I liken our CCIM designation to like a CFP designation, Certified Financial Planner designation. So for those of you that have not gotten the designation, that want to learn more about it, we have an incredible lineup of educational events and offerings, including what's coming up. We did leave an event list, or a list of educational events and networking events that are coming up. We've had some really interesting events so far this year. Certainly the fires and everything have been a challenge and have pushed us kind of back on some things. But we had an incredible event about the rebuild effort for the fires in Hollywood earlier this year, which many of you were able to attend, which was an incredible event that brought forth reporters and David Waite, who's an attorney, a land use attorney in Cox Castle and Nicholson. So that was a great event. We have our financial analysis for commercial real estate CI 101 course that is coming up on May 12th through 15th. So if you know anyone who wants to start in their roadmap towards getting the designation, highly encourage you to talk to them about being a part of this course. We also have a wonderful event webinar on May 21st called the Virtual Syndication class, which teaches you about syndications. So these are all benefits of being involved as a member of our chapter, and we want to encourage you to get involved. If you're not a member, please do sign up and enroll as a member today. Lexi Moriarty, our president-elect, can help you get engaged. So Lexi, thank you for coming. One other thing that I want to plug, we have an incredible event coming up on June 20th that we're planning that will be a lunch and learn and a case study at a really cool venue that we're promoting right now. We're going to start promoting at the Porsche Experience in Carson. So that'll be a really cool event to talk about brownfields development, and it's a very unique project that David Waite, who's one of our sponsors, is going to be helping us put on. So with that, I do want to thank our sponsors as well. We have our gold sponsors, RPM Commercial. We have Cox Castle Nicholson, who's our gold sponsor as well, and Capital Direct Funding. And then our silver sponsor, Caleb, representing Illy Commercial, statewide CDC as well, who's one of our silver sponsors. So thank you guys for making this happen. And with that, I do want to introduce our speaker today, David Shen. So David Shen of Lee & Associates, Pasadena, currently manages leasing in over 20 commercial properties across Southern California. He also represents many high-profile regional tenants, local developers, as well as local international buyers. In 2018, he received the Top 10 Broker Award from Sperry Commercial Global Affiliates as the number 7 broker nationwide. So David has a storied career, and I want to introduce David, also our past president. So thank you for all your work helping to build our chapter. So with that, I'm going to introduce David Shen.
All right, so yes, nice intimate group. So what I want to do is make sure that people get what they want out of this breakfast meeting. Since we have such a small group, feel free, ask questions anytime. If we just go through my slides, we could be done in 5 minutes or we can be done in 30 minutes. Just kind of depends on the interaction with the group, okay? And a little bit more about myself. I'm a local kid, so I grew up here in Arcadia, just a little bit down the 210. I currently live in Pasadena, so this is very convenient for me. This place looks, after renovations, very nice. So I'm very happy to be here. I do a lot of leasing in retail in the area, mostly smaller mom and pop owned strip centers, also some neighborhood centers. So that's kind of what I'm going to be focusing on. But if you guys have questions otherwise, also more than happy to talk to anything you're interested in that's in retail. Okay, and I also want to plug that we have a pickleball event through the Arcadia Association of Realtors coming up May 16th. So I'm currently the president at the Arcadia Association of Realtors, so hoping to have a nice event there if you guys have any interest in pickleball. All right? All right, and I'm going to skip this slide about Lee and Associates. You guys probably have heard of us, but the brand's been doing well, so we're very happy to say that we're number 5 in the brand for Lipsy's top 25 list.
I just went to your Phoenix office.
Oh, they're number 1.
I
So,
used to work for Lee and Associates.
oh wow, okay, that's fantastic. Yeah, Phoenix and Ontario, they're always number 1,
Yeah.
1 or 2. So a little bit about what's going on in retail, if you guys been following, and this is specifically to Los Angeles. Net absorption at negative 2.6. I think this is, yeah, it's just been very poor. I think this number might be a little bit off, but it's negative. So definitely want to follow what's going on in retail, because it's been pretty flat in the last few years. And what I would say is you have to find your opportunities to invest, and transactions are a little bit more difficult and challenging. And you guys have probably seen that locally in our neighborhoods. And quickly, can I ask, are you guys from San Gabriel Valley, from the West Side? West Side? Any other West Siders?
Southern California.
Okay. And San Gabriel Valley? Alhambra, San Gabriel Valley. Okay. Sorry. It's been a rough time.
Central Coast.
Tri-City, Central Coast. Anyone from the Valley? The Valley. Okay. So, I mean, things are a little bit different. Obviously, LA is huge, so you kind of see things kind of like a little micro economy in all these regions. So I'm just going to talk about LA generally, and then a little bit more about San Gabriel Valley, where I tend to do most of my transactions. Right now things are going heavy into the suburban markets, like downtown LA. From anywhere from downtown to Santa Monica has become a lot more challenging to get transactions done. Values have dropped, rents drop. I did a few tours in the past few months out there, and brokers are thirsty to get deals done, because they're still listing relatively high, but they're willing to come down and get a deal. But there's also a lot of vacancy, so I think at this point the tenants are going to have more of the power and the leverage. Yes.
So I'm kind of going through your list here and
Mhm.
getting to the bottom of the key takeaways.
Yeah.
So, just kind of high level, why suburban versus urban? What are the demand drivers that are making suburban retail more attractive than urban retail?
Yeah, so for me, what I see is it's in LA specifically, it's hard to travel. I don't know how many friends you see that don't live in your area. I have friends that live in Orange County, and they might as well live in San Francisco, So having your neighborhood core is extremely important, and I think people realize that. And what I'm going to share a little bit later is more of the strip center and neighborhood centers and how they're doing well, because they're really engaging with the neighborhood. In the urban areas, they tend to pull from, or they need to pull from a wider pool or further away to make their numbers work. And with what's, ever since COVID, definitely downtown suffered across the board, retail, office, everything. So I think everybody knows that. But then that has started to affect everything going west as well. And Santa Monica, I don't know if anyone's been to 3rd Street lately. I was just there 2 or 3 weeks ago. It's not the same. It's not the same.
Not only is it not the same, but it's just the crime is so bad. Somebody was stabbed there last week.
Wow.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. please.
I lived above it and had an office above it in the late 80s. And it was a bunch of boarded up buildings and barbershops and used bookstores before they did the conversion. So compared to that, it looks great.
It's all relative, right?
Didn't Santa Monica Place just go into receivership
Yeah.
as well?
Well,
I heard something. I heard there's activity.
Macerich just lost Santa Monica Place to receivership. that's a big one.
Yeah, I mean, they're, they're anchoring Third Street, so it's a struggle, for sure.
Interesting.
I don't know if that answers your question fully,
Yeah.
but I think just also the volume with the economy, with tariffs, everything has affected the consumer where there's just a lot less spending power, and you tend to spend a little bit more locally and with the standard needs, you're not overspending and buying things that are unnecessary. So that makes it tougher for those markets. Now, labor costs have affected. So I've done a lot of restaurant deals, not many recently at all because of that. So labor for restaurants, even if they're legal, illegal, it's just more expensive. So, and it's hard to find labor, they're expensive, it's hard to pass on that cost to the consumer at this point. You can only take so much, you can only eat out so much. So, that's made leasing very challenging. And we've tried selling restaurants, nobody's trying to buy any restaurant. Everyone's only trying to do second generation direct lease. So,
David, I was just in
Mhm.
Vegas this week, and I saw a headline there that said they're alarmed because the vacancy rate in Vegas is now all the way up to 4.5%. I think it's pretty funny.
it might fall off a cliff really soon, you never know.
For restaurants or just in general?
In general retail in the market, it's 4.5. They're like, it hasn't been this bad in years.
And that's another thing I was kind of thinking about, right? In the sense that there's this whole concept of there being too much retail, right? They just, and that was clearly North America in general, right, compared to other regions of the world, definitely over retail, right? And so, but that's an example maybe of a market that does not have too much retail, right? So
That's
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
I guess the question I have is how does online purchasing affect urban retail? And
I think that has already taken its course, and at this point, most things, at least in LA, have right-sized in my opinion. Vacancy rates are relatively stable, rental rates are relatively stable, and people saw this coming a long time ago, probably like early teens, so let's say 2010 till now. Retail has kind of been shifting, and for those first 5 years, you see a lot of vacancy and a lot of the demolition. So a lot of the purchases in retail were to knock down and build mixed use. And at this point, I feel the market is right-sized itself, so I don't think you're gonna see too much vacancy. And most of the retail has become services based. You're not gonna see the general retail. I guess malls are still struggling, depending on where you are, and trying to figure that part out. But that's why I like the strip centers and I like the neighborhood centers, because those are services that you're going to need for a while until AI or robots take over and do whatever else that I don't know they're going to do. But for the time being, those are the stable ones that I think it'll be easy to lease, something you can depend on for return, and probably the wise decision if you're planning on doing anything in commercial real estate, retail specifically. And some of the big deals are happening now. You can see on the slide, but it's on hold in Carson, Macerich, and I forgot who else. They were trying to do a very large experiential retail center, and it's on hold at the moment. And then same in West Harbor, that's a Rakovich project, and those are the big developments. Like the rest, about 100-something thousand square feet in LA, just kind of spread out in smaller projects. So not too much going on when it comes to development. So it's mostly lease up, centers are trading, but just activity-wise, it's just very flat. And I'm not sure if you guys keep track of treasuries, but obviously it's a lot better this time this year than this time last year. Probably dropped about 1% or more. So I think that has affected us a lot. last year, I mean, for me personally, it was a struggle getting deals done. I see an uptick ever since January, maybe even the end of last year. And I think a lot of that has to do with the interest rates. People feel that it's going to be stable now, just hovering around what it's going to be for a while. You can see right here, all of April has been almost the same. And I look back all the way to January, and it's very similar as well. And I think probably for the foreseeable, at least for the rest of the year, right around this. So I think people have become comfortable with the number. I've seen lenders lend as low as 4.5% on with very good borrowers, and other deals going easily over 7%. But I think kind of where it's hovering is plus or minus 6%. That's a realistic number to kind of underwrite with. So what I see as a good strategy, and a lot of my clients have done this in the past and are currently doing this, this is what I feel very comfortable with. And I think if you ever decide you want to get into retail investing or shopping centers, these are some of the key factors I look for. If you get them all, you're going to have an A-plus building that's going to cash flow like crazy forever. But even if you only hit 3, 4, 5 of these points, I think it's worth considering. So number one, I really, really like minority areas. So South LA, if you're willing to risk it, I like it. So I've managed properties in Inglewood, in Wilmington, in Highland Park. We're about to get a new listing in Pico Rivera. The demographic there isn't going to be the national credit tenant, but there's a lot of cash and there's a lot of money. You're not going to see it in their tax returns. You're not going to see it where investors or banks want to see it. But if you know the market, you know the area, even if the tenant defaults, leaves, if they give you 1 month or 2 months notice, you'll find someone to replace that space within that time frame. So I think it's a very safe bet. It does require more work, but definitely worth it if you're more of a hands-on investor. And I would personally like to buy with some vacancy. I don't want it fully occupied. There's no real upside unless you're just waiting for appreciation. I like it where it's roughly 60 to 70% occupied. If it's too low, it's very hard to come back. There's a point of no return, and I always think it's roughly around 60%. You go below that, just getting to that 60, getting that first tenant back, or it's a real struggle, it's a real grind. So I like some vacancies, so there's definitely upside in that purchase. And like I said already, I like strip centers. You have fewer tenants to manage. You have the bread and butter of the community in terms of services. You're not going to have to stretch too much to find those type of tenants.
David, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Anchored or unanchored strip centers? Even like a little junior anchor.
Yeah, so I like junior anchors. I think the ones with the grocery anchor or a larger anchor are more challenging. I've dealt with centers that you have one owner that owns all of it, or you have multiple separate owners. So maybe the anchor, which is a grocery store, is owned by the grocery store, and then the rest of the retail is owned by someone else.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on the anchor lease and also the anchor,
Mm-hmm.
but I would just put that aside. I personally like junior anchors. If you have some sort of, maybe a Starbucks is great if their lease isn't too favorable to them where they can just vacate or exit anytime. But even if they can, the build out is very reusable. So I like junior anchors, and I also just like straight strip centers with no anchor.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then how small? So one of the things I learned, and I was pinned in 2022, I think it was you should have 4
Yes.
of something, right?
Yes, I like 4 units to maybe 10
Okay.
max.
Okay.
Personally, I'll share what I personally really, really like, but I think those are all within the parameters. Was there another question?
I was gonna ask the same thing, just
Okay.
roughly like what size, I mean, square footage or whatever, 4 to 10 tenants is fine though.
Yeah, and obviously a good parking ratio is good to have. A mix of short-term and long-term, because I don't want everyone expiring at the same time. That becomes a real struggle, and especially if for some reason the tenants know each other, they could maybe collude against you, and really try to stretch their dollar.
I've always put stuff in my lease that says if you're talking to another tenant and you find out about it, then there are repercussions. Put that
Wow.
in my
Okay, I
lease.
like that. I like that.
Do you, from a parking ratio, what do you like to see?
I'm sorry.
From a parking ratio, what do you like to see?
I mean, as long as it's first, number one, whatever the city requires. Number two, the more the better, so that you can have a different use. Because if you want to end up with taking a general retail space and turning it into a restaurant, you need more parking, or you need a variance, which can be very difficult depending on the city that you're working with. Like any additional parking is always beneficial because it gives you more flexibility and more opportunities and more options on the tenant mix.
So do you like 4 to 1, 5 to 1?
Yeah, I'll take anything from 3.5 and up, but yeah, the more the better. Yes.
Maybe, I don't know if you're gonna talk about this, but we have on the ballot this vacancy tax.
Hmm.
Are you at all tracking this or following it?
I have not.
Okay.
I have not.
Commercial vacancy tax, yeah, it's something that I
Yeah.
think we're all gonna start hearing more about here soon.
Real quick too, a comment about the parking ratio. In downtown LA, in their new plan, they are getting rid of parking ratio requirements.
Yeah, entirely.
I think that's really, and it's not just LA, I've seen this around the country, in urban areas,
Yeah.
where you can
Even
take an Uber or one of those self-driving things.
even in residential, it's happening substantially higher.
It's a
rate.
move towards, what are they doing in terms of the pricing?
Yeah,
So it's a move to choke too many cars into a space to try to charge another fee.
Well, it really becomes difficult because we just don't have, they're trying to get higher densities, but but they're giving up parking. So this is, it's been a long-term, that's a big change in zoning regulations because it got really high for a long time. Medical is still very high, 5 to 1, but, and retail is still pretty high also. But in terms of residential and mixed use, we get a lot of incentives now. And so those that are dealing with mixed use properties, the parking ratios are dropping significantly.
Yeah, and I think also if you're closer to a transportation hub or metro stop, right? You get a
Exactly.
lot of you get
And if you can get the metro stop adjacency, that's really big.
yeah
So
a lot of
those are the
credit,
types of
right?
things we try to work for from a development standpoint when we're looking at it. So
Yeah. So a couple more things. Corner lots, better than not corner lots. Larger lot, better than small lot. And I think if you have a larger lot, you have an opportunity to develop a little bit more, which is also, obviously a bonus. Yes.
So a couple of things on that last slide. So going back to the top, so minority areas, so there's a undersupply, I'm assuming, of good tenancy and services, and is that one of the main
I don't
drivers
think
for
there's
that?
an undersupply.
what's
I
your-
think there's an oversupply of tenants interested in starting their own business and entrepreneurship. So, you have successes, but then you also have a lot of turnover. But the turnover isn't as devastating as potential turnover in like the markets. Let's just call it, I'll just say Santa Monica, because they'll probably stay vacant longer. And I love South LA, I love San Gabriel Valley. If the landlord is reasonable, you'll backfill that space very quickly.
You're probably
So-
not giving up much TI either.
Oh, yeah.
You're not
You're-
like suffering from, you've invested a bunch of money into something and then they go dark
Correct.
and then you're out all that money.
'Cause
Yeah.
that was my next question is, what kind of TI, what kind of
Nothing, you give them nothing.
investment are you just
Yeah, no,
as is?
there's almost no TI,
Yeah,
maybe a couple months of rent abatement.
yeah.
It's,
What kind
there,
of term? what
yeah,
kind of
very
term-
low capital outlay up front.
What kind of lease term are you getting?
It doesn't even matter. I mean, as an investor, I wouldn't care as much. As a broker, I want the longest term possible, right? But you know, we do deals that are 1 year, 2 years. If they're trying to test the market, that's the thing. You just have to be comfortable with the turnover
Right.
in those areas. And you're gonna look at the rent roll and you're like, okay, who are these tenants? Are they even qualified? If you actually really dig into the financials, you're gonna probably get scared and like, oh, I don't think they have anything that can, you know, qualify them, or their credit's probably really poor, all that. But the thing is, there's the next person ready to pay the rent, and it's a lot of cash business.
And last question on this is, because it looks like potentially this is value add, but is there rent growth associated with this? Are you seeing
Yes.
significant rent growth?
Yeah, I mean, I think rent growth, because once you stabilize it and make it nice, because if you look at the product in some of these minority areas, they're poor. But if you're able to put some money into it, you'll be the best in the market, and you can charge a little bit of a premium, and you're definitely going to make that money back, whatever you invested in. Yeah. Yes.
On the minority areas, I would think the biggest void and need would be from, unless the media's lying to me, I keep hearing about the shortage of large supermarkets with healthy food and the
Food
overabundance of liquor stores that sell lotto tickets and
Mhm.
chips and soda.
Yes.
So I would think if you really wanted a niche market and go into an area, if you could put something together and get it rezoned and bring in a Ralph's or a Vons or an Albertsons,
Right. Yeah, I mean, the
that
reason.
would be like the major mega center of the entire minority area.
Right, and I like that idea, but I think it's very difficult to
Land
execute,
values.
just because obviously the grocers don't want to be there, or else they'd be there.
Yeah,
Because of the
Right.
slip and falls. The food for less go in, but the others don't.
Right, right. So you have specific grocers that are more than happy to be in certain areas, and others just don't see it to be profitable. And it's
I mean,
you can't change their mind, right, as an investor or as a landlord.
I was just gonna make a comment, so I represent Sprouts Farmers Market, and we do their business throughout the San Fernando Valley and then up into the Central Coast, and they have a broker summit that they have us come to, and that's just where I was in Phoenix for a day. And, they're that type of grocer, so they're very active, they're expanding aggressively. They're definitely looking for minority areas. Actually, like their core customer is higher income Hispanic, is their core demographic. So, you know, San Fernando Valley is a great opportunity for them, in other areas. So if you guys have anything that you're looking at, and I'd be the broker to contact for the San Fernando Valley stuff, but if you guys have stuff that you're trying to backfill a center, or you wanna buy something, or you wanna replace the grocer or something better, like they're very, very active right now.
What's their GLA?
23, I think it's 23,699 square feet or something. It's very specific.
So
Yeah.
they don't have a
Should we
smaller
say
footprint?
25
They
and
don't.
above?
They don't.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's like, it's very specific. It's like 23,000 plus or minus, but, and they'll take bigger space. Probably more than 30 is too much for them, and they'll either sublet the remainder of it or mothball it. Yeah, and they've got 2 versions of prototype that they're, you know, dimensionally. So they'll take deeper stuff, but that's harder for them to lay out their store in.
Yeah, because there's an untapped market for cheaper, healthy food
Yep,
in minority areas.
totally.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think it also, I mean, obviously the demographics is very important. I mean, you said higher, you know, wealthier Hispanic, right?
Yeah. It's
So
more
they
middle
really
class,
categorize it,
middle
which is-
class, you
yeah.
know, not like, you know, wealthy or anything, it's like more middle class
Mhm.
Hispanic.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I see a lot of interest right now with the grocery stores or supermarkets. One of the agents in our office represents TNT from
Mhm.
Canada,
Yeah,
the Asian grocer, the equivalent of the 99 Ranch,
yeah.
and they're
Uh-huh.
moving into our market
I see
too.
grocery outlets growing a lot too in
Mhm.
minority areas.
Yep.
Okay, so time frame when purchasing a, let's call it a strip center. This is kind of really rough, but you know, if you're looking at potentially purchasing and turning something around, I think you can do it in 21 to 36 months. At that point, refinance or sell, whatever your play is and however you want to go about it. But I also recommend, we started a property management company last year at Lee and Associates. I used to run my own small property management company, and no background in it at all at that time, but just said I'll do it, and you learn a lot. You really have to understand the triple nets, you gotta understand the reconciliation, but that's extremely useful and helpful if you're looking to own, and also if you're representing tenants or landlords, understanding how that part of it works, especially with mom and pop landlords who probably don't understand themselves. I mean, I've converted a lot of small shopping centers from modified gross leases to all triple net, and I think that benefits the landlords significantly, and they don't really realize it until later. And then I've had others request that specifically when they purchase okay, once everything renews, let's turn them into triple net. But just understanding the whole process, and then hopefully having a list of vendors that you can recommend for all sorts of little things, from a handyman to a roofer to HVAC guy. All that's going to be really helpful in the business for yourself and as a broker. Okay, and then recommendations to help boost ROI for your landlord or for yourself if you own centers. At this point, what I do see is a lot of absentee landlords or ones who defer maintenance and defer everything and push everything onto a tenant. If you can just get ahead of it a little bit, and it's all relative to your market, as long as you're one step ahead of the next guy, your neighbor, it speaks wonders, and it works very well. So maintenance and upkeep, and if you have the time, get to know the tenants, actually get to know them. During COVID, I had landlords who had good relationships with their tenants, and I had landlords who had terrible relationships with their tenants. And the ones that had good relationships were very thoughtful and either deferred rent or made half rent. I had a landlord who said, just pay whatever you can pay for the next 2 or 3 months. And if you can't, you can't. And, they built a lot of loyalty at that point. And, I think that goes to show like what you can do. Because if you can afford it and you can afford a better relationship, I think that's huge. And in those certain circumstances, the tenants will do their own maintenance sometimes and actually help you secure the property, whether it's, if you have other issues or dealing with security, they'll be the eyes and ears, and they'll really help you when you're not there. But if you don't have a relationship, they'll see things going on, they can care less because, you're not in it together. And like I said, you just want to be a little bit better than your competition if you know your direct competition. And whatever you can do, especially now in this market, whatever you can do to get the tenant in the door, you gotta give them concessions, give them concessions. If you need to push off or you have to flatten the rent for the next few years, no escalations, whatever. Get them in the door, the bank will be happier, I would assume, unless they already put like a minimum rent on you. And just get them in the door, because the more vacancy you have, the worse it looks, right?
Is anybody doing percent rent anymore?
I haven't seen anything unless it's at a mall. I've had people try, but I tell them, you're not the mall, probably let's just cross that out now, please. And let's not ask for it.
If you're giving a flat rent and, something happens and the tenant takes off,
Right.
it'd be nice to capitalize on that.
Yeah,
I'm doing a lot more percentage rentals
Are
these
you?
days.
really.
Yeah, it's for like smaller shop spaces and stuff like that. We're doing a lot more of that, and then CPI increases versus like a flat 3%.
Good.
Yeah,
So,
we're doing CPI, we're doing that a little bit.
track what?
The percentage rent.
It's just on a case, I mean, I don't know how to
Is
type
it
things up to
good
it, and
faith
add,
or
yeah,
is it
add.
good
just
faith?
your tax?
Yeah, but no,
Yeah, look at their
you're
sales,
supposed
yeah.
to report your sales.
Report the sales.
Every quarter or whatever,
And-
or
and-
once a year, whatever you guys decide.
And you put audit rights into your lease.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, I've seen percentage rent at food
That's
halls.
how to do it.
Yes,
I was
Jeff?
just gonna ask about, one thing that I see a lot is the, conversion of retail to medical, to healthcare.
I love that.
Are you seeing any of that happening? I mean, obviously the TI becomes more
Yeah.
expensive in that regard, but in these areas where you're doing lease up, are you seeing any kind of quasi-medical or?
I see that more with office buildings,
Yeah.
like just general office trying to turn into medical office. I don't see it as much with the retail, but doesn't mean it's not happening. Yeah. Okay, so this is kind of the perfect strip center to me. 5 to 7 units, one restaurant, one cafe space, a nail/hair salon or some other salon, probably a nail and a hair, and then maybe one of the more fancier brow, lash, beauty spas, and then one regular office, one dental or medical office, and then some other probably dry cleaner, laundromat, pet groomer, something like that. Because these are very replaceable. Someone can easily come in and operate that type of business if anyone vacates. Okay, and Sheriff, you guys have anything you want to add to this list? This was a struggle for me because I was thinking nothing has been very innovative or new in retail recently. I know we talked about experiential retail since pre-COVID, but I felt like that's, it's been a while. We've been talking about that, and it's happened, but it's not everywhere. So, food halls have been open. I don't see many more food halls opening. I'm getting indoor golf inquiries a lot. Obviously, Top Golf is still doing stuff, but I heard the Montebello one's not doing very well.
But it is
VR
interesting-
experiences.
It is interesting that there are more competitors to Topgolf coming out now, which I
Mhm.
think, and it's not so crazy expensive.
Right.
So I think that's a nice trend. I think in the beauty spas, where you see the collection, almost like a food hall, but for beauty. What is that, salon?
Yeah,
Salon
Salon
Suites?
Republic
Yeah,
and
Salon Suites.
Phoenix, those guys. Yeah, we did a Phoenix deal in West Covina. Yes, David.
Can you share with the audience the benefits of the CCIM collaboration with Site to Do Business in the analysis of supply and demand for a particular product type? It's a very valuable tool that if you're part of the CCIM family, you have access to that information.
Yeah, so have you guys used Site to Do Business recently?
I've tried.
I haven't used it for a while.
I'll show you, it's
But
Perfect. I'm
there's
like, I know there's a lot of good stuff here
There's
that
a
I
lot
don't
of good stuff
understand.
there.
A lot of good tools. I think the basic is the Esri demographic that you can add to all your brochures. I believe they have like a Google Earth type thing.
Pictometry, yeah.
Yes, and then you
do really cool aerials from all different perspectives, but you have to pay, you have to get the tokens to do it. They don't
Okay.
just give you the tokens for free.
But you can do a pretty good void analysis.
Yes,
That's what I wanted to add.
Yeah,
yes.
I'll show you.
So I haven't used Site to Business to do that. We have another tool in our office that we use that actually tracks cell phones. You don't know the demographic, you just know their live bodies.
I was Credit Intel, but
Oh,
now
yeah.
it's the Admin Research or whatever. Same idea, like geofencing.
Yes.
Clue
GPS
is
stuff.
one of them.
Mhm.
That's another one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot of really good tools. We'll see how things kind of, I don't know, how they lay out after a few years, like who's still left in the market and who's the winner in those types of softwares. But I think, yeah, Site to Do Business is very useful. A lot of people will actually join CCIM just for Site to Do Business. Okay, and pickleball, a lot of automated everything. Like I just heard on the radio recently that in Glendale they have a new convenience store with no attendees. So I think robot arms, yeah. So I think that's actually probably the wave of the future for sure. And then
Especially with labor costs.
yeah, exactly. Labor costs, especially in California. health and wellness, all sorts of different fitness trends keep, cycling. I don't know about you guys, but I see a new Pilates, Legree Pilates. They're very active. These beauty spas that do the Botox and facials and, I guess like more like Korean skincare, Japanese skincare. Cryotherapy, we did something like that a few years ago. But all these trends, F45, whatever. But any new things that you guys are seeing out there that's innovative and cool and actually in the market and taking up a good amount of space?
There's some stuff, and there's a new use to kind of the Topgolf theme. But it's in Ventura County, actually. It's I forget what the name of it is, but it's like a batting cage, like virtual batting cage, virtual golf, kind of, that sort of virtual element. And it's got a bar. The K1 racing is another one. I don't know if you guys have seen that.
I'm actually on K1 on Sunday.
Yeah, one of my client owns one of the buildings, but there is a challenge there that I've seen with insurance, because it's not traditional industrial, but you're basically converting a traditional industrial to like a retail use with potential issues, risks internally, but
Yeah, I've tried doing that with a few tenants, and the biggest issue has always been the city and then parking ratios on the industrial property.
Yeah.
It's never enough for whatever their use demand is. Okay, so I'm just gonna do you have time?
We can go through this real quick.
Okay. All right, so I'm just doing, this is a quick case study. So it will be a purchase and then a potential refinance later. I hope these numbers are correct. Don't fact check me if I'm wrong. But let's say you buy a property at $3 million. And you buy, okay, so this slide, and this, can you guys see this at all?
Yep.
Okay, great. So I did basically, this is the current, this is pro forma, right? And this is based on the strip center that I said I like a lot, which is 7 units. And so you have the restaurant, cafe, 2 salon spaces, an office, medical office, and some sort of cleaner. And if you end up finding an underperforming center, maybe with 1 vacancy, maybe 2 vacancies, and these are numbers you can just plug and play wherever you want, right? But I was trying to make a realistic example where you might see, a little bit lower rent. Maybe the landlord's owned it for a while and has been very generous to their tenants, or, but maybe they don't operate or run it very well. You take that and then obviously you buy it, but then you invest, let's say $500,000, which is what I put for the CapEx. And banks obviously not going to lend you too much on something like this. So let's say they give you an LTV of 50%. So loan amount $1.5 million. We'll call a poor interest rate of 6.5 since the center is or maybe you're not as experienced yet in flipping centers or owning centers. Your debt service comes out to be roughly $9,500. And with the bank, DSCR or LTV, lower of, so you're looking at 50%. So if you take the time and you actively, first you renovate and then you lease up, get these to very reasonable higher rents, then refinance. So on purchase, I use the 6% cap, being a little bit generous, so hopefully you win that purchase and get that transaction done. You sell it to the seller or the broker, and hey, we're giving you a lot more than it's really worth. And then, actually, I'm sorry, I increased it. So I use 6% there, but purchase for 5.7%. So give them more, right? More than really they deserve. So hopefully you can acquire that center and then increase those rents. And then once you have those increased rents, then things change with the bank. They give you potentially 70%, only require 1.25 DSCR. Interest rates a little bit better because of the security. and you're not necessarily selling at the same, you're selling at a worse cap rate, which is fine, but your value has gone from 3 million to almost 5 million. And then cash out, refinance, take this money, go on to the next one, and then hold on to that one.
So question on that, so what's the time frame for the execution of the CapEx and the
Yeah, so
realization of the
this
higher
is what I think is realistic. Obviously, there are a bunch of ranges. This depends on you, the city, whoever you hire, all play a role. But I think this is a realistic range.
Gotcha. And the driver for the increase in rents is primarily the improvements via the CapEx?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you
Some
want to be
rent-
better
some
than
rent growth, but-
yeah, you want to be better than the next guy. So there's a very good case study very recently. I didn't get the leasing job, but there was a small developer in the area called, I don't know if you know, Fortress. So they mostly do construction and ground up development for, you know, single family homes and renovations. But they ended up buying a center in Roseby on Garvey. It's beat up. Old center, mostly Vietnamese tenants, but tenants have been there for a long time. And with a decent amount of vacancy, the center was very beat up. They got it for a good price because of the current situation. Basically, all the tenants were on month to month. They went in and they basically told all the tenants, okay, you come up to market or you leave. So maybe a total of 25% of the center said they'll stay because their business was doing fine. And they paid the additional market rent. And obviously the developer promised, hey, we're gonna turn the center around. We're gonna level up everything. We're gonna, you know, do a little bit redesign. We're gonna paint. We're gonna do new parking lot, new landscaping, new everything, whatever we can. And they did. And they have leased up to probably 80 or 90%. And their value is, I mean, it's probably at least tripled. And this was in a window of probably a year and a half. So I think it's very doable. And they had a lot of tenants too. They probably had 15 tenants at least in that center. But yeah, I think that's like a gold mine. That's kind of what I would look for if I had that kind of money and the opportunity. But obviously, you know, finding the cash up front, you know, maybe pull a bunch of friends together, do a syndication or something, but I think that's the play. Okay. Yeah, and have a nice project team and, you know, list of who you probably want. Probably have 2 or 3 of those at least for each position. Yeah, that's it, guys.
Woo!
Number one, I want to thank everybody who came to our event and taken the effort, energy to join us. But remember, what you need to understand is that the CCIM Greater LA chapter is a family. It's important for you to reach out and get the contact information of our president, Jeff Gould, or our incoming president, Lexi Moriarty, or our past president, David Chen. They're all very open, very accessible, and very able to share with you their listings. If you have investors that want to buy a property, the gentleman who took the initiative to bring his shopping center for sale listing, we want to thank you for doing that. It shows an active attitude. We are not an organization of couch potatoes. We are an organization of active leaders. A great example I want to mention is what I've seen from Caleb Morrison. He is no couch potato. He's an African lion. Okay, so if you need help, reach out. Our goal is to help you to make money. It's not more than just an education, but I got my start on December 2014 by taking my very first class, Introduction to Commercial Real Estate, taught by Carmela Ma. It was a 2-day course, and it only cost about $195. We encourage you to get in touch with Lexi Moriarty, get in touch with the classes that we're offering, and just take one class, take the step, okay? And realize that you have a vision to be a hero for your family, for your company, for your community. You want to be a hero, you don't want to be a wimp. So with that, we want to thank you again for coming. Again, in 3 months, we're going to have another breakfast meeting, but then we're going to bring a CCIM who's going to speak about industrial properties. Then the next one after that will be office medical buildings. And the next one after that will be small income apartment buildings to medium. Each one has a niche and a purpose for you to share with your clients. So with that, we want to thank you for coming, and feel free to help reach out to our president and our incoming president. Thank you. And remember, join our chapter.